Welcome to the Birth Abroad podcast. My name is Megan Jennings, and I'm honored to host mothers who have come here to share their overseas childbirth stories. From fertility journeys to postpartum and beyond, this podcast is meant to hold space for women all over the world to share their unique experiences with the challenge of becoming a mother away from one's home country. Let's get in today's episode. Hey everybody, and welcome back to the show. Today I'm going to be interviewing my friend Mary, who is an Armenian who is living in Germany. And I've had to divide her episode up into two parts because it was pretty long. I tried to cut it back down to a modest length for both episodes, but it just covers a lot of subject matter. So with that said, as a preface, I will say that both parts of her episode cover the topic of loss. So I'm just putting a trigger warning on there. Mary did have multiple early miscarriages, and she does talk about them. She talks about them more so in the second part of this episode. But with my stories that include mommies who have gone through IVF like Mary has, a lot of the times it's a given that there are some struggles in the fertility journey. So those of you who are IVF mommies or who are currently looking into the process of IVF abroad, I'm just, trigger warning that we do have a couple miscarriages that are talked about, but Mary gives so much good information about how Germany in particular does IVF, and she actually talks a little bit in depth in the second part of her episode about some unique features to the way the German system approaches IVF, particularly that it's not legal to do genetic testing of embryos. And so we discuss that in a little bit of depth. But in this first part, Mary mostly shares the story of her IVF journey to get pregnant with her daughter, pregnancy and birth, and then postpartum. And there's quite a discussion about postpartum that goes on in this episode as well. So if you're interested in hearing this and you're not triggered by the topics that are discussed, stick around, and here we go. Here's part one of Mary's story. Hi, Mary. Welcome to the Birth Abroad podcast. Thank you so much for taking some time out of your day to sit down and share your story with us.
Hi, Meg. I'm so glad that you're having me here today. And hi, everyone who is listening to us. So I want to introduce myself. My name is Mary, and I come from Armenia. I live in Germany for 9 years already, and I moved here with a volunteer service project. When I was here, I met my husband, and we got married, and now we live in Germany, and we are raising our 3-year-old daughter named Audrey here.
So, do you want to start off with telling us when you and your husband decided to start growing your family?
Yes, we met in 2011, and a year after we got married, actually. And as I was having troubles with my documents here in Germany, we thought it's actually a good time to have a baby till everything solves out and I can start a job or studying. And basically right after we got married, we started trying for a baby. But it took us a very long time. It wasn't like that we were trying completely to conceive. We were traveling a lot back then, and we were considering a lot of projects, but we were kind of open to the fact of getting pregnant. But after 2 or 3 years of trying, we saw that we're not getting pregnant, and we started getting concerned about that. So we went to a clinic, a special clinic here in Germany, and we found out that we can't conceive naturally at all. We have 0 chances to conceive naturally. We were very devastated, of course, to find out that it won't happen for us, because I have been a person who has dreamed to become a mom even when I was a little girl, as long as I can remember myself. And I can remember myself actually since I was 3. I was obsessed with dolls, and I was obsessed with the thought of becoming a mom one day. And for a person like me, who had only this big dream in her heart, it was a huge disappointment to find out that this may not happen for her at all. But I I didn't want to disappoint my husband at that moment, because in our relationship, I am the strongest one actually when it comes to emotions. I go through things silently and I don't break down normally, even though it is harder for me. But I have been the strongest one, so I never showed it in front of my husband how disappointed and heartbroken I am at that point. So the doctor told us that we have only one option, and that is the ICSI treatment, which is basically the same IVF, in vitro fertilization, but the method, there is just a slight different method here during the fertilization of the egg, and that's the only difference.
And ICSI, is that when they actually do they do genetic testing?
No, unfortunately, in Germany, no. Normally, yes. If we would consider doing that abroad, then of course, the clinics abroad do the genetic test, but that's the problem with Germany. Germany does not do any genetic test.
Okay.
ICSI is actually in vitro fertilization, when the egg of the woman is collected from, and a sperm of the man is selected, the best ones, and they are fertilized in a petri dish together.
Yeah.
But during the ICSI, they take a small needle and they help the egg and the sperm meet, like they inject the sperm inside the egg.
Right.
Yes, that's the only difference between ICSI and the IVF. They need a little bit more help to fertilize the egg. Yes, and after the egg is fertilized, they leave it to develop and it becomes an embryo. And after some observations how the embryo develops itself, when they think it's good enough, then they transfer it into woman's body, and then you have to wait to see if you're getting pregnant or not. But in abroad, like in Czech Republic, I'm sure in Belgium, actually all over the world, on the stage when it is just an embryo and it is still not transferred, the clinic is allowed to make some kind of test to check if the embryo is healthy. So they transfer only the embryos that are completely healthy without any genetic help. And I know in some clinics you can even choose the gender, you can choose the eye color, and a bunch of different things which haven't come, like has never been an option for us, and we never considered that. But I always wanted to have the embryo checked for the genetics, because if that embryo is sick, like we had afterwards, after our transplantation, then you are either going to miscarry the baby, or you will have a child who has some kind of genetic failure, like a Down syndrome.
Mm. Mm.
And this is something that breaks my heart now and terrifies me a lot, because we want to try for baby number 2. And we are still doing it in Germany. And I don't know how it is going to be without this test.
Well, do you want to walk us through how it went the first time?
Sure, I will be glad to. So first time when we found out about our infertility, we started, of course, running the test and do all different kinds, fill out applications. And then we started our hormonal therapy, which you have to go. So it was all unknown for me, and I felt so weird and I felt so alone. And I remember the only time when I felt myself like a normal person belonging to the whole world was the time when I was sitting in the waiting room with all the other women or couples who were going through the same thing. That was the only time I felt a little bit good about myself and not such a failure. Because when I was coming home with my problems, I just couldn't do that. And when we started our hormonal therapy, you take nose sprays, which are hormones, then you go through injections. Some women say that actually they felt very good about themselves when they were injecting the hormones, probably because their body needed that. But in my case, my body exaggerated actually with the hormones. Like it reacted very strongly to hormones, and I had overstimulation, which meant I had a lot of eggs produced. And that was a big problem because my belly, my uterus was full of water, my ovaries were full of water, and I was going through a lot of pain.
Did you need to go to the hospital for that? Because I think in English that's ovarian hyper-stimulation syndrome, if I'm not mistaken. And I've had a couple friends that have gone through that, and it's been very painful.
It is painful. I had to go every second day to our clinic, but after the eggs were collected, I decided to come home because I am like that, you can't drag me to hospital that easy. I am a person who never takes medication or takes it only, I don't know, when there is no other options anymore. But from our first cycle, we had 6 embryos. We had a bunch of eggs. We had like 30 eggs and 19 ripe ones. But only 6 became an embryo, let themselves to fertilize, and then they were embryos. And afterwards, we had to transfer 2 embryos on the next cycle. So we made the transfer, and nothing happened. Like I got my period as I normally did. Then we took the other 2, and nothing happened again. And with our last 2, I got pregnant. And now we are raising our daughter, and I was so happy. And I remember I haven't talked about my pregnancy to anyone. Like I didn't say anyone that I'm pregnant. Even to my mom, I just confessed on the 5th month of pregnancy. I think I was on the 5th month of pregnancy when I told my mom. And
was it because you were scared too?
I was scared. Not only that I was scared, I just couldn't believe that finally, because, by the time I really got pregnant, we were trying already for, I don't know, 3-4 years.
Wow.
To get pregnant. So when I got pregnant, I couldn't believe that it happened to us. To me, I was like, there is no way I'm going to get this baby. There is no way my body will carry the pregnancy. So I didn't even accept myself that I'm pregnant till I was in the 4th or 5th month of pregnancy, and I knew that the baby is doing okay, and we could see her on the ultrasound. And I remember I was already 40 weeks pregnant, and we had to talk to our hospital about the induction. And I was like, I'm not ready. I'm not ready to give birth because I am still not fed up with this pregnancy. You know what I mean? And besides, I had accepted that pregnancy only the last 4 or 5 months. Yeah. So I wasn't in my brain, I wasn't done with the pregnancy yet because I let myself to think about the pregnancy in later stage of my pregnancy. So it was more a psychological thing. And I remember I was crying in the hospital, and I was saying, I don't want to share my baby with anyone because I know if she's there, that I have to share her with my husband, with the grandparents and people. And I just wanted to keep her for myself, and I could just walk like that for another 3 months at least because it was like really psychologically, I wasn't ready at all to give birth. And of course, when you're not ready, then afterwards you get into postpartum depression, which was my case. And I was totally not prepared for that.
Do you want to share your actual birth story with us?
Oh, I would love to because it's funny. Sorry. Yes, so as I told you, we were induced, and we went to the hospital on the 28th of January. That is actually the day my daughter is born. We went there at 7 o'clock in the morning, and I had to get a pill. Just please don't ask me which pill because I don't remember. I got there to get induced, and so I got the pill, and I was allowed to go and walk up and down the stairs and take a walk through the hospital, and nothing happened. Nothing. I didn't have any contractions. I didn't have any pains. Nothing. I felt nothing. So we waited till 4 p.m. in the evening, and the doctor came, or the nurse came, actually in Germany, midwife. Hebamme. In Germany, we call them Hebamme. So it's a midwife. She came and said that I'm going to get the second pill, and if that won't help, then we're going to wait for the next day. But my husband has this weird character. When every time when things get a little bit tough, he loves to leave. Like, he can't stand these hospitals and things. So I got the second pill, and he was like, you know what? I think I'm going to go home because our cat is alone. I was like, what? And that was the moment when my water broke. Actually, I'm like,
oh my gosh, how funny.
I was like, I didn't need any pill. You just had to tell me that before, that you want to leave me in the hospital pregnant. Like, you broke my water totally. And really, it was him. It wasn't the pill. I am sure till today that it was him. So my water broke. And the problem with the induction is when the women who have been through that, they know that during the induction, when your contractions come, they come like immediately, and you get almost no pause in between. So my contractions started right away, and I had probably half a minute pause in between. And my midwives, they told me to go out for a walk, and it is like a way in Germany. I know in US you stay in your room till the end, but in Germany they prefer when you go for a walk and you help yourself to give birth. So, and I was like, I can't go for a walk now. I need my place here. Like, I will feel comfortable here, staying in my room. And my midwife had another opinion, so they sent me to the floor, to the corridor to walk a little bit. And when I was in the middle of my contractions, my husband decided that he wants to go to toilet. So he sat me right there, and he went somewhere, like on the second floor or third floor, and I was like, I am alone here without any help. Like, I was feeling so bad, but from a shock now, because I was standing again alone. Like, I couldn't believe that he did that to me, but it was funny. Afterwards, I could laugh. At that moment, I didn't find it funny at all, but okay, he had to do what he had to do. So I was standing in the floor, and people came to me and offered their help, but okay, they couldn't help me at all. So I turned back to our room, and I said, I can't breathe anymore, and I need epidural. And in Germany, normally the midwives and everyone, they try to guide you through a natural birth without any drugs. They don't like any epidurals or any C-sections, even though I know a lot of people will disagree with C-section. But I had the feeling here that the midwives prefer when you go through birth with in natural way, or you can go take a you can use a bathtub, for example, to breathe through your pain and give birth, like in water, but they avoid to give you drugs. But I consisted. I said I can't breathe anymore, and I can't go through this pain anymore. So they decided to give me epidural. And the thing with epidural was, the moment they turned my epidural on, I tried to turn on my bed, and I felt Audrey's head already.
Oh, wow.
And the funny thing is, before giving epidural, they checked me. They said I'm on 3 centimeters dilated, and that was the reason when I said I can't do it another 7 centimeters, even though it was like only 1.5 hours. But it was so intense that I just could not imagine myself going through that pain for hours. So I asked epidural, and right after they turned on my epidural, I felt Audrey's head. So they had to turn it off, and then I had to push, and I pushed a couple of times, and she was out. And the thing what I didn't notice then was that Audrey's heartbeats were very low, on 40 already. And my midwives afterwards told me that actually it was a good decision, because they were already getting concerned for Audrey's life. if I can say it like that. I didn't know that. I didn't look on the monitor to see because I couldn't breathe. I just, I was thinking to survive only, through the pains. No, that her heart rate was so low. And just because of the epidurals, my muscles got so loose and she was able to slide out. So it helped her actually. And I was so happy about that decision, even though I had a big tear because they had to help her out, or they had to take her out. She was already not in a good condition. But I was so happy that I made that decision. And then we got our baby daughter. Yeah.
Oh. How
And
how far along were you when she was born? Were you past your due date?
yes, I was 10 days past my due date. I was in on 41-week pregnancy.
Okay.
But she was just tiny. She was only 3 kilos.
Oh,
Uh,
wow.
yes, she was very tiny. But my doctor measured her wrong. She thought it's gonna be like a bigger baby. She's gonna be bigger. She's gonna be 4 kilo. And as I am a tiny human being, she was concerned if I would be able to pass her through. But she was only 3 kilos and she was 48 centimeters. She
Oh,
was
she was so little.
she was tiny. She was
Yeah.
tiny. She was like a butterfly. She was so,
Oh.
yes, she was so sweet. And there is one thing that after birth, I don't know if a lot of women do that after they go through ICSI or IVF. But after I gave her birth, of course, I took my shower and everything. But when we were in our room, I could not let her lay in her crib next to me. I asked the midwife that I want to pick her up and I want to sleep like that because I couldn't stand the thought of having her next to me
Mm.
without, you know what I mean?
Yes,
Uh,
I
I
do.
just
Yep.
had to have her on myself. Like I couldn't let her go because I wasn't ready to give birth. And she's still on me 3.5 years later.
I just think that's like a strong maternal instinct to not let your baby go. So what was postpartum like for you?
Okay, postpartum is my least favorite part of everything. And I really, really hope that second time around, I'm not going to do the same mistakes I did first time around. But there were a lot of issues that led me to a postpartum depression. First of all, when we came home from hospital, we were living in a smaller apartment, and right before I got Audrey, we signed um, the documents for our new apartment, so we had to move, which meant I was 1 week postpartum and I had to think about new kitchen, we had to
Hmm.
order it and think about wallpapers and furniture, which was not nice because I had a newborn and everything was so new. And as Audrey was tiny baby and her birth actually, it was nice for me because of the epidural probably. I forgot how painful it was, but it was definitely not easy for her. She had traumatic birth because her head was so tight up, and she had hard time. I had hard time with breastfeeding her. First of all, because I read a lot about giving birth, and I forgot to read about the part when the baby comes. Actually,
Uh-huh.
because we think that labor will be painful and we're kind of looking for an information to make our labor easier, but we forget that labor comes naturally, whereas taking care of a baby does not come naturally.
Nope, it sure doesn't.
Like I thought it's mother instincts and I will have it all figured out, but no, not at all. I did not know like what should I do now. Like Audrey was crying and I had no idea what's wrong. If she's hungry, if she her tummy hurts or what is her problem. And my biggest problem was before giving birth, I'm sure a lot of women went through this when your relatives and friends, they all say, yes, when the baby is there, we're going to be there for you. We're going to do this and we're going to do that, and then you come home with baby and no one shows up. So you're home you are in pain, you just gave birth, you have hundreds of things going on, your baby does not sleep, you're tired, fatigued, you haven't slept, and no one gets it. Like,
No.
no one. And that was the hardest part for me, because I had to learn that from this day on, I am on my own.
Did any of your family from Armenia at all have a chance to visit?
They had a chance to visit, but they couldn't because my uncle back then was sick with cancer, and my mom was taking care of him. And half a year after he died, and then my mom could come to us only when Audrey was half a year old, 6 months old. But I had to go um, through this whole baby stage and
Yep.
moving stuff, everything. I had to go alone.
Yeah.
And my husband was working long hours every day. When he was coming, I had to pack a lot of boxes so he could carry that to our new apartment. And I was in postpartum, 4th week postpartum or 6th, and we were painting the walls here. So I had my baby in a stroller in the next room, and I was painting here, which is totally unhealthy
No. Yeah.
mentally and physically. And I was dealing with so much stuff. I had so much pressure to be able to keep up with this whole moving thing. You know, I couldn't think only about Audrey and this new life that we just started. I had to think about moving to a new flat. And we didn't have any help, which I thought we were going to have, but we didn't. So
So
I
you did it.
started,
So you guys did it all yourself, just the
yes,
two of you?
yes,
Oh my goodness.
yes, but actually more me than my husband because he had to work. He was always out and he was in a transition to a new position, so he had to work even longer than he normally did. He went to work 1 week after I gave birth. So I was basically alone all the
Does
time.
Germany have like a what's it called? A
Maternity leave.
paternity leave?
Yes, they do, but we couldn't afford that in that moment because, when you move to a new place, you have to pay so much. Like you get a baby and you have to buy these whole baby things first of all, right? And everything in Europe costs a lot of money, and then you are in the middle of moving to a bigger place, which means you have to buy furniture, especially kitchen. So, and we had to pay more rent. We couldn't afford at that point for my husband to go to paternity leave because then you don't get your salary completely. You get, I think, 60% of your salary. And that was for us like hard
It's like cutting his salary in half. Yeah, that's pretty significant.
because we had to buy a new car. He has to have a car to drive to his work every single day because he works outside of the city and he has to drive 1 hour every single day. And we had an old car, so we had to get newer one and bigger one for our baby, of course. So we had a lot of financial things going on, and we couldn't afford having my husband um, go to paternity leave. It was a hard stage, so we kind of had to find a way. And because of this old stress, I think it was the problem. And because the Audrey was so small and weak, we started having problems with breastfeeding because she couldn't latch on normally. It took her sometimes even 3 hours to be done with breastfeeding. So I had to sit, and imagine I had to sit like 3 hours, and I had, okay, after birth, it did not look nice. Like you couldn't sit long, you know what I mean?
Yes, I do. I know exactly what you mean.
So I had to sit like that and have her breastfeed for 3 hours sometimes, so she would be done. And my midwife, in Germany, you get a midwife who visits you every day or as you wish when you're in postpartum. So she offered me to pump the milk because I had a lot of milk, but Audrey was not drinking it. So I was on the edge of getting mastitis, but we got a pump, so I was able to pump everything out. And then we saw that she drinks almost nothing,
Oh,
which was very, very traumatic for me. All her pediatrician appointments, like she was healthy, but our doctor kept saying that she's not gaining weight, or she's very slow in gaining weight. So he told me that I have to give her a bottle because we had to know how much she drinks. So after 6 weeks of trying with pumping, breastfeeding, bottles, and everything, I just lost my milk completely because I was too stressed out. And one day I just pumped and nothing came out. So I had to stop breastfeeding, and I think that was actually my breaking point when my depression um, really started. You know, before that it was already hard. I was already going through weird things for me mentally, but when I lost my milk, that was the point when everything started already like that hard. I had a feeling that I am failing her in every single way possible, that I was like, why? Then there was a reason why I was not becoming a mom, because I'm such a bad mom.
Oh,
So
Mary.
that was my whole thing. But the only compromise I could do, I think that was the reason uh, why I did the things that I did. I let her sleep with us. Like we were co-sleeping in the beginning, and Audrey was very fussy baby. She was crying a lot. She wasn't drinking normally, and she had so much problems. And I haven't slept for the first 1.5 years. I don't remember myself sleeping more than 1 hour or 1.5 because she was screaming so much. And I had to carry her throughout the night and walk with her. And my husband couldn't help me, of course, because he had to get up at 6 o'clock and go to work. So a lot of people told me that I have to let her cry, this method that when babies learn to soothe themselves. But it was like, for me, it was like, I can't do that to her. I already failed her in breastfeeding. I already failed her in a lot of things that I thought I'm failing. In the end of the day, I didn't fail her. But it is just now that I understand, you know.
Yeah.
I had a feeling everyone has it figured out. And just because of our moving, I thought I'm not giving proper amount of attention to my child, even though she was always on me. I don't know why I was thinking like that.
We put so much pressure on ourselves to perform.
Yeah.
It's so hard.
And that is what I now realize, because I was like, why would you think something like that about you? You just came home from hospital. You could hardly walk, and you took the stroller. You carried it downstairs because we had no elevator, nothing. I had to carry it. And I went every single day for a walk with her because I thought oxygen is very necessary for her. I didn't even think that, okay, I just came home from hospital. Actually, the only thing I have to do is lay down and eat.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But I didn't eat the first 10 days.
Oh
I
my
couldn't
gosh.
eat. I couldn't swallow anything. I know a lot of people say that they come and they want to eat so much because of breastfeeding, because they were so tired. But for me, it was exactly vice versa. I couldn't eat anything, like anything. I lost all my baby weight right in the hospital. I came home and I was even less than after, like, 6 months after postpartum, because I just could not eat. The only thing I wanted just to drink water, and that was it. And I wasn't lazy. Now I realized that I could be a little bit selfish and lay down and ask my husband to cook for us or to order food. But I didn't even do that because I was like, no, we are moving. You're gonna need every single euro for your new place. So I wasn't ordering food online for myself, and my husband wasn't there to cook for me, so I would just starve, which is totally crazy. How a person, how can a person treat herself like that? And that is now what I realize.
Yeah. And like postpartum hormones, just in and of themselves, can you make anyone do like crazy things. I feel I relate to your story so much. I feel like the story you're saying is like I could say it for myself. The same things happened because of so much stress. I had no milk. I beat myself up over it. I thought I was starving my baby. I had no appetite. I couldn't eat. I dropped the weight. Like it was a mess. But when you're in it, especially when it's your first baby, you don't know. Like you don't know what to expect. You don't know what could happen. You just think everything is going to fall together in place and everything's going to be fine. Like you just don't know.
Exactly. And I remember Audrey was 5 weeks old, and you know how people are when you just give birth and everyone tries to tell you that they know better what you need, what your baby needs.
Yep.
So I'm not going to name anyone. Of course, I don't want to make anyone feel bad, but I remember I was out. As I told you, I would go out every single day right after I gave birth without thinking that I can't even walk. Um, because I got that pressure again from outside of family that your baby needs oxygen and it's not enough just to open the windows and air the room. You have to go for a walk, and it was February. So I was doing that, and I met a very close family friend of ours who is older, and she was like with her friend, and she started making me feel bad about myself in front of her colleague, saying that she tells me all the time that I can just leave my baby in the balcony and she has to scream, it's okay, but my baby should learn to soothe herself and I shouldn't go out and walk with her. And they all have been through that. They all have done the same things to their baby, and I'm such a bad person that I'm so shaking about my kid. You know, I'm such a helicopter mom or something like that, and I'm so weird and freakishly careful about my baby. I'm not putting her in the balcony. But with the balcony, there is this thing. We were living exactly on the bank of a river, and we had a balcony coming out on the river. So you have to imagine how windy and cold and humid it was in our balcony, especially in February. So I came home with tears because, okay, I just told you like in a short way, but of course it wasn't like 2 minute conversation. It went on and on and on with a friend of hers and trying to make me feel guilty. So I came home with all tears, and I just put my baby in the balcony to sleep, continue sleeping. I said, of course, packed everything packed in her stroller and everything, not like naked or something. No, but she was like warmly packed in a balcony. And then I let her sleep there. And after an hour, Audrey was awake. She started crying. I brought her home, and I understood that she's so cold already. And then she got sick. She was 5 weeks old. I was struggling with breastfeeding. I still had milk at that point, a little bit, not much, but I still had. I just started to think like that I am already getting used to this whole routine and being mom thing, and I just started feeling good about myself, and Audrey got sick. Of course, it was not, thanks God, it was not bronchitis, but she started coughing and sniffing, and she couldn't drink at all anymore. So every time she would cough, I would choke. You know, I couldn't breathe at all, to the point that my husband had to take Audrey from me, take from my hands, because I was about to choke so bad that I would drop her. I was feeling that bad. And of course, from that stress and having sick baby, I lost my milk completely. And then I was like, this had to be the point that like breastfeeding helps the baby. And now you don't even have milk. What kind of mother are you?
I want to reach out and hug you right now because I have had the same thoughts. And I know exactly how you felt in that moment. And I hope you know now, though, that you were not a bad mother. You were the best mother to her. You cared so much, and that's all she needs.
No, I felt so weird because none of my friends had that. You know, they had all the help they needed. Everyone was concerned with their babies. Everyone was there to cook for them, to help them out in the end. I was freakishly, like alone in the middle of everything. Actually, I've worked through these emotions and these feelings throughout the years. And I'm so thankful that I had to figure it out myself and work through the things myself alone. It makes me proud. I am like that. I have always been like that. We had, of course, a lot of relationship issues after our baby was born because, of course, both of us were tired. We were going through a lot of things and everything was new and we couldn't understand each other. But today, we are in such a good place now in our relationship. Um, of course, it's not like this honeymoon phase anymore as it used to be, but we know that we have been through a lot together, and if we made that through, then we're gonna make the rest of our life everything through together.
Yep. Did you ever have the opportunity to, or I guess, how did you navigate postpartum depression? Did you end up seeking like therapy or help, or did you do it all on your own? Did you just process it alone?
I am a person, I never seek anyone for help. I am like that. And I have to process everything alone. I have been through a lot, and like I read a lot of literature to help me out, or I watched a lot of videos about other moms in YouTube who were going through postpartum, and I just decided to give myself a little bit more time and be easy on myself. Of course, it is hard. It took me half a year, and then my parents came to visit us, and it was first time after giving birth when I had someone who took my baby and I was allowed to finish my plate. Like throughout 6 months, I haven't even eaten my food completely or in one sit. So after I was able to finish one plate, like warm, in normal way, like a human being, that already made me feel so good and I was like, Mary, maybe it wasn't something horrible that was happening for you. Maybe it was just because you were hungry or
Yeah.
maybe you just needed like a shower, like more than 2 minutes. Audrey has always been the worst sleeper ever, okay? And with 1.5, she stopped taking any naps.
Uh-huh.
And before that, for her to put her for a nap, it meant I had to walk with her like at least 45 minutes. I had to carry her 45 minutes, and then maybe if I was lucky, she would nap 20 minutes.
I
You
feel
know,
like every mother listening to this podcast is shaking their head saying, "Yep."
oh, this story, you have to have this story. This is so
Okay.
good. About crazy mothers, okay? Crazy
Okay.
mothers. Here we go. So my husband went to a business trip to Stuttgart for work. And the day when he was leaving, Audrey got a fever and she was 1.5. She got fever. We went to the doctor and he said that this is nothing. Just let her relax and sleep. She's going to be okay. So my husband went afterwards to Stuttgart and we came home and Audrey was tired, of course. No, that day went okay. The next day, Audrey woke up at 9 o'clock and then she fell asleep again at 10 o'clock because she was just tired from all this fever. She slept at 10 o'clock and then she wouldn't wake up the whole day. And I was so worried. And it was 5 o'clock in the afternoon. She slept from 10 to 5 o'clock in the afternoon.
Oh, wow.
So almost 7 hours because she was so, so tired. And yes, I remember the night before, because she was sleeping in my bed, she woke up during the night and my husband wasn't here. So she started crawling in bed and she fell down from the bed. Of course, I got so scared. In the middle of the night, I was alone and she had like this fat lip, but she fell asleep right away. So I said, okay, as long as she's sleeping, I'm not going to wake her up and check on the lip. She's okay. Just don't go too crazy. So the next day, she woke up for 1 hour and then she fell again asleep till 5 o'clock. And I was already panicking so bad because she hadn't eaten. I was alone. She had fever. So she woke up. We spent 2 hours together and then she was tired again. So I thought, okay, do you want to bring her to bed or you go to toilet? I'm sorry. And then bring her to bed. So I decided to go to toilet first. And we have a cabinet in front of the toilet. So, and it has like two glass doors, like one on the bottom and one from up. And I wanted to pick something up from this upper shelf, and I had the glass door open. So when I was picking that up, it fell down. And I grabbed that thing from the floor, and I just, because I was in panic and in such a worry, I picked my head up and I hit my head on that glass door. And then I started bleeding like crazy.
Oh
Like
no.
I broke the whole glass, like the whole door. That glass. I was so weird and panicking. I broke that whole glass with my head.
Oh my God.
Now I had 1.5-year-old baby crawling on the floor with fever. I had glass everywhere. I had blood everywhere. And I was like, you're going to faint now and fall down and you're going to die probably with a baby and your husband is not coming home tonight.
Oh my gosh. Oh no.
I called my neighbors. They came really quickly up and we called like a ER and stuff. And they came and they said, what did you take? Did you take any medications? Like, we can't stop this bleeding. I was so crazy. So they took me to ER and they gave me a bandage. And Audrey was here with my neighbors till 12 o'clock at night, till midnight. And I was sitting in ER for 4 hours and waiting till they're going to check out the wound and maybe find some glass or something inside it. And that 4 hours made me think, like, how crazy a mother can be. How crazy, like, why? Why would I get so stressed, or why should I do it in such a hurry, everything? Why I am always in this rush and under such a pressure? Why I can't take things a little bit easier, or, like, breathe through things and just give myself time and not panic like that. And I got so weird and crazy that now I was sitting in ER and my baby with 1.5 years old and with fever, who needed me the most in this world, was by my neighbors because I had no one else here to ask for help. And I don't know. And afterwards, like, that was a lesson to me. And now I'm totally different. I am able to gather myself together when I need to, and breathe through things and be a little bit kinder to myself and not put that kind of pressure, because in the end of the day, it's just a fever.
Yeah. Well, and postpartum anxiety is a very real thing, and it's separate from postpartum depression. And I feel like a lot of people, when they think about postpartum problems, they think about postpartum depression, but they don't actually think about the anxiety and how wound up we feel, and feelings of like, oh my gosh, I have to hurry, or I need to check on my baby, or, those intrusive thoughts of, okay, I'm bleeding, now I'm going to probably, die here and no one's going to be here to care for my child. Like, that actually is a very real condition that happens to people frequently, but no one talks about it, so they don't realize, that it's not you being crazy. It's you trying to be the best mother you can be, especially given the circumstance.
Exactly. But I also noticed a lot of people out there who are not that concerned, for example. And I don't know if this is due to my hard experience and for a lot of people miscarriages, or,
Yeah.
trying to conceive, or it's just a personality thing. But I know a lot of moms who will never think twice.
I have to imagine that your fertility journey has impacted your motherhood journey, just from the sheer fact that it took so much effort.
Like, we hold on to that, and as we're trying for the second baby, and it's like so hard for us, sometimes we just think that she's gonna be the only child we got and we have to hold on to her.
All right, friends, I'm going to end the first part of Mary's episode here, but in a couple days I will be publishing the second half of her story, so stick around and I will announce it on my Instagram page when it is released. If you want to follow that page, it's at the Birth Abroad podcast. I had to think about that for a minute. And if you happen to have a story you would like to share, feel free to reach me there, and I'd be happy to talk to you about it. Otherwise, I will be in touch with you all in a couple days with the conclusion of Mary's episode.